Welcome to the Mike and Alison After Hours podcast with your hosts, mshelah and Alison Haas, talking business with real business owners in the Mid-Atlantic region. Today's episode is sponsored by Advantage Industries. When you need business technology, get Advantage Industries to protect and promote your business. To learn more, go to www.getadvantage.com and schedule your first meeting to see if you qualify for a free network scan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mike and Alison After Hours. I am your host, mshelah, and with me is the always engaged and often energetic Alison Haas. Alison, how the heck are you today?
I am awesome. Thank you for my intro, Mike. How are you doing?
I am finer than a frog hair, to quote the saying.
Oh, boy.
So for our listening and viewing audience, we have some really exciting stuff coming up for you today. Of course, we have our guest, who I will introduce in just a moment. As I have mentioned on the last few episodes, we have a great guest coming up in August, Mr. Eric Williamson, who is the author of the book, How to Work with Jerks. And Eric is going to give away a copy of his book on our show. And the way that you win is really simple. You pick an episode and you drop a comment either on YouTube or on Podbean or on iTunes or Stitcher or iHeartRadio or Alexa or wherever the heck you listen to the show, because you can listen to us just about anywhere. But listen to the show, drop a comment, and then that is your entry, and we will pick a name out of the proverbial hat when Eric is on the show. He will select a winner, he will personalize the book for you, and he will ship it right to your home. So we are very excited about that. So we hope that you enjoyed Alison driving the bus on our last episode. That was a fun little change up, and Alison's going to do a little more driving in upcoming episodes as well to keep things fresh and engaged. And
AKA winging it. But it was fun. I do that well.
And you may remember a couple episodes back, we had a cybersecurity expert on where I got to nerd out. So Alison is going to get to nerd out with an HR professional in an upcoming episode. So that's coming up in about a month and a half. So stay with us. We know you're going to love that. We are also going to have a marketing professional. So we're going to do an entire episode on marketing and branding for your business as well. So we're shaking things up a little bit. We're going to change them around a little bit. But most importantly, let's welcome our guest. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We have the Gordon Sumner. Now, I know some of you are going, wow, I thought he was off touring in Europe right now. No. Not the lead singer of the Police. I'm talking about the Gordon Sumner, Dr. Gordon Sumner, President and CEO of Veterans Moving Forward. So, Dr. Sumner, welcome to Mike and Alison After Hours. We are so excited to have you today.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Alison. That is one of the best ones I've had yet as far as intros of all these podcasts. And I tell people I get at least one or two, that Gordon Sumner a month, even after all these years. So thank you for making sure that I had that second one for the month of July. So I'm still in. So that's great.
Yeah, you are absolutely the more interesting of the Gordon Sumners of the two, for at least for our show. You know, if it's a rock and roll podcast, you know, maybe it's a different conversation. But when it comes to business, you are the right man for the job. So Alison is going to take you through the first segment of the show, Dr. Sumner, the who, what, where, when, why, how. And then she's going to hand me off to you, and we're going to do some conversation around leadership, which I'm really looking forward to learning about your business and learning about the principles of leadership that you use in your business every day. So, Alison, take us away.
Thank you, Mike. And good morning, Gordon. It's great to meet you. I know we had some email exchanges, and I was so grateful for your clear passion for what you do and the work that you're doing in the community. So this segment is really yours to define. So who, what, why, when, what, where, how. I might have added a few in there.
Which
can start from a personal place and go to professional, but really we want to understand who you are, where your business is, what it means, and those facets. So however you want to introduce yourself, this is your opportunity to promote you and your business to our audience.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very honored to be the president and CEO of a fantastic nonprofit, Veterans Moving Forward. Our mission is to provide service and emotional support dogs to veterans that are dealing with physical and or mental challenges at absolutely no cost to the veteran or their family. And we don't differentiate which veteran may apply. Some organizations are focused only on combat wounded veterans. Some are focused only on Afghan Iraq veterans. We don't care. The only requirement is that you serve honorably and that you submit your application. You can be located anywhere in the United States, even though our training center is located in Northern Virginia here, just on the north side of the Dulles International Airfield. So we truly are trying to become more of an national provider of these great service and emotional support dogs for our veterans, especially my fellow wounded veterans, recipients of the Purple Heart Medal. How I got started into this was actually by a fluke, a phone call. I'm retired Army, 28 years, retired Army colonel. And my last job in the Pentagon, I was working Army training worldwide. Got out, worked a few years in the defense industry business. It was okay, but it really wasn't what I wanted to do. I'm more of and I think this is true to most military members, we're service oriented. We want to do things. We want to help people. So I had the opportunity to work for 2 presidential administrations. Fantastic jobs. In fact, I didn't know how much fun I was having until my daughter said it was the happiest she'd seen me since I retired from the Army. So then I obviously came out of the administration and was contacted by the 2 co-founders, Commander Karen Jeffries, United States Navy retired, and Bob Larson, financier in Wall Street, who were friends. And they had this idea of forming a nonprofit to provide service dogs, but they didn't know how to do that. So they reached out to me through a mutual friend. I helped them, and I thought, great business opportunity for my consulting business. But I quickly realized this was something that I just wanted to do.
Yeah.
Above and beyond the normal nonprofits where I've been working with Purple Heart, Military Order of the Purple Heart, or American Legion, VFW, those things that traditionally veterans support. So I helped them get it started. We got our IRS ruling in July of 2010. So we recently celebrated our 11th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Board for about 5 years as secretary, acting president for a few months. I became elected as the commander for our Purple Heart chapter here in Northern Virginia. So I left Veterans Moving Forward to focus on that. I came out of command in 2019, and that fall, some of the board members called me and asked if I would come out of retirement, and this time return to BMF, not as a volunteer, but full-time as the president and CEO. So I met Lori Sittner, who is our fantastic COO. She was director of operations. And I said, no, you do more than that. Your title now COO, because you really are the brains behind the outfit. And Katie Paulson, who is our director of programs and head trainer, knew these 2 ladies had what it takes to really run this organization. And they had only been there a few months before I got there. And we're actually thinking about leaving because they just didn't want any more of the turmoil. And I asked them to stay with me and at least give me 3 months. To the end of the year. Then if you don't like what I've got ideas, methods, and our direction of where I think the organization needs to return and go to, then you can leave. No harm, no foul. And fortunately, we've been together ever since October of 2019, through thick and thin to include the pandemic.
That's huge. That's huge. So from just the service dog perspective, did you have your hands in that already? Do you know about service dogs, the training? How did that part come to be?
Nope, didn't know anything about it. It just sounded like something great. And knowing from a marketing viewpoint, at the time, and probably there's some truth to it today, the 3 top marketing tools are dogs, puppies especially, veterans, and babies. So I had 2 of the 3 already. If I could find a veteran that's getting a service dog holding a baby, I had the trifecta for donation. So it didn't
Brilliant. I love it.
Time to figure that one out there in the club. So, but what was interesting about it was just another way of serving veterans. As I tell people, just because I retired from the Army and I hung up my uniform doesn't mean that I stopped caring about our soldiers and their families, and now to all of our military members as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you have I know dog trainers and I have dogs, but I know less about service dogs. Where do they come from? Do you have organizations that you're partnered with? Do they come, are they mature, fully trained, I assume, so they can then be placed with these veterans immediately?
No, we actually get the dogs when they're 8 to 10 week old puppies.
Wow.
We have a relationship with very special breeders.
Yep.
And most of the time, we literally get the pick of the litter. They're not cheap. They're running about $3,000 a puppy.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's, again, part of our fundraising is to acquire the dogs. Then we train them for up to 2 years before they are matched up with a deserving veteran.
Wow. How many dogs have you been placing annually?
Well, when I was here earlier, we were doing 1 or 2 dogs, just because of the type of training they were doing when I was on the board of directors. Now that I'm back, I understand that 3 or 4 years that I was gone, they placed maybe only 2 dogs. Now that I'm back, we've already placed 3 dogs in the last year. We're scheduled to place 2 more this year, and maybe 1 facility dog. And a facility dog, real quick, it's a dog that's trained almost to a service dog level. It has that kind of capabilities, that kind of stamina, that kind of smarts, except it has more of a gregarious attitude. It wants to be friendly with everybody, and it just won't focus on one individual. It wants to focus on a whole bunch of people. So what we've done is we've instituted a program called the Facility Dog Training Program. And that's where we train the dogs, again, up to almost 2 years. We find, if possible, a veteran that's working into a clinic, like a mental health clinic or a hospital that serves veterans, a first responder veterans network, something like that. But we can assign the dog to the veteran, still helps that veteran with their own needs, but then the veteran takes the dog to work. So that dog not only helps a single veteran, but literally hundreds of patients that dog visits.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we do that.
I love that. I love that. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, be it to donate money or their time as a volunteer, how would they best do that?
The best thing to do is on our website. It's www.vetsfwd.org. So vetsforward.org. It's the same thing as my email address that y'all have. So vetsfwd.org. Right at the very beginning, at the top, you can scroll down. We are encouraging people to become monthly donors, especially to join our 1,000 for 1 campaign. And that's where we're looking for 1,000 businesses or individuals to donate only $100 a month. If we can obtain 1,000 people donating $100 a month, it will drastically change our program capabilities. It will improve our programs tenfold. It will be the game changer. And only $100 a month for a tax-deductible donation to our programs will also help us to gain more dogs, which means more veterans and more families and communities that we'll be able to support. If you want to volunteer, again, to our website, scroll down a little bit further on the right, how can I help? Click on that, scroll down, it says become a volunteer. You fill out the form online, you hit it, and Lori gets it instantaneously, and then we add you to it. And we look for volunteers to do anything that you want to do, from outreach, fundraising, come by to do puppy raisers, puppy sitters, dog walkers. We have people who come to the office, to the training center, just to walk the dogs. It's kind of like a little therapy for them. So they'll volunteer to come in the morning before they go to work. They'll come in during their lunch break. We have volunteers who come in after work, before they go home to walk the dogs, before the puppy raisers come and pick them up.
That's great. I had my walking dog therapy this morning from home, so
I did too.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you need both.
Yes. So I think this is a perfect jump into Mike's portion with leadership. Clearly, you have a lot of experience under your belt, and we're excited to hear more. So, Mike, sir, I will pass the baton over to you. Thank you, Dr. Sumner.
Thanks.
Thank you, Allison, and Dr. Sumner. What you're doing resonates with me deeply. My father was in the Army at the end of Vietnam. My uncle served and was in Vietnam during the conflict. My grandfather was in World War II. My cousin is a Marine. He is a lifer, as they say. And so I understand the impact of military, not on our country, but also on our families. And I also know what you do is so critical to supporting those that have supported us, is probably the easiest way to put it. So thank you for that. And two things stood out to me when you first started talking to Alison. I heard you say servant-based leadership, which it's inherent in the military. If you've been in the military, the first thing you have to get right is leadership and chain of command and your superior office, managing up and managing down. So from that perspective, just share with us a little bit about leadership, what you pulled from your military experience, and maybe how you've applied that with your nonprofit.
Well, one thing key about leadership is you've got to not only read the books and take the classes and all that. I mean, yay, woohoo. You've got to feel it. You've got to own it.
Bingo moment. Love it.
And you've got to accept the responsibility for what happens with the decisions you make. You are responsible. You can delegate authority. You can do that all day. As a commander, that's exactly what I did. I had my executive officer. I had my senior non-commissioned officers, my warrant officers. They were all delegated areas of responsibility to take care of things. But as Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. And when things went great, they got the credit. When things sucked, I got the credit. And that's what you have to do. And I'll give you an example. My daughter won an Army ROTC scholarship coming out of high school. First year in, having lived as an Army brat her whole life, she said, "Papa, I don't know I can do this." And I said, "Well, okay, tell me about it." She says, "I don't feel it like you do." And I said, "Well, if you don't feel it, then don't do it, because if you're a pseudo leader, your NCOs especially will pick up on it and they won't have the respect for you. So don't do it. It's okay. Maybe there'll be something down the road." Sure enough, down the road, she started feeling it. She's now serving as a captain physician assistant in the Air Force. It was just selected last year as a top company grade PA in all of the Department of Defense. So I'd say she kind of figured it out. So,
Very
I
nice.
probably keep it up because you're part of my retirement plan. So don't screw up there, kid. But honestly, in the leadership, there's really two things to think about, since we're talking not just business and leadership, but also nonprofits. If you're in the business world, in the military especially, it's easy as the leader to say, "We need to get this done, go do it." Right. And they salute and they turn around and they take off. And they figure out how to do it. Don't tell your people how to do it. Tell them what needs to be done. Let them do it, and then give them the guidance. You kind of have an idea about how you would like to see it, but if you just keep telling them, do it like this, do it like this, do it like this, you're not gonna one, teach them anything, and two, you're not going to gain their respect as a leader, because they're just going to wait for you to tell them exactly how to do it. They'll go do it, and then they'll go home. Difference with the volunteer: you can't go to a volunteer and say, "Do this or else," because if you do, the volunteer will take the or else course of action 100% of the time.
Sure.
So as volunteers, you have to be able to talk volunteer. You have to get them to believe in you, believe in the organization, believe in the mission, and to believe in the path towards success. You have to make them become true believers, as we would say in the religious circles. Once they become true believers and they understand where they're going, and you make them feel a part of that organization, that you're listening to their input, you're absolutely taking some of their input and turning that into action, that's where the units become successful. And that's what we've done over the last year and a half at VMF, is I've got a nice cadre of volunteers who are doing everything from donor management, office management. All of our social media sites are now run by volunteers. We've got a cadre of puppy raisers, puppy walkers. We got a lady that comes in and cleans the kennels every now and then.
Wow.
Volunteers. So I don't pay janitor bills. That saves me money. But they all have ideas, and I sit there and I visit with them and I ask them, what do you got? And then they tell me, and if it makes sense and it's doable, then I try to implement their ideas so that they become part of the solution, not just part of the organization as a name.
That's great.
Wow, you just laid down about 15 bullet points that we need to unpack. I don't know if we have enough time to do that today, but I love what you said in the example about your daughter, because in your own words, she got that ROTC scholarship, but she wasn't a true believer yet. But she saw value to continuing to assess and evolve, and she did become a true believer. And because of that, that led to her having great success. And I think that's probably my favorite. And again, you've had so many great ones in there. That's my favorite moment from that, because Alison and I talk all the time about, in the business world, there are a lot of bad leaders. And I think there are people that want to lead because of ego, and there are people that want to lead because of the money, but they forget that critical component, which is the people. And the idea that you have a team, whether military or business, that you are saying, okay, this is what needs to be done. Bob, I want you to go do this. Mary, I want you to go do this. Steve, I want you to go do this. Susan, I want you to go do this. And then giving them the latitude to figure it out, because the business world needs more of that. So I love what you brought there. So if we were to go back to a let's say newly honed cadet Gordon Sumner.
Wow.
What's the piece of advice that you would give to that gentleman, that young man?
I saw your question on that one earlier, and I believe, thinking back on it, it's kind of the same advice that I tell college students when I was the ROTC commander out in Nebraska, and they were coming in for their counseling on what am I going to be when I grow up. And I told them it doesn't matter what you're going to be when you grow up right now, because the world is in front of you, and you can be any and everything you want to be. Same thing I told Andy. Just because she's a girl doesn't matter. You can be anything you want to be. You just have to earn it. They're not going to give it to you. You have to earn it. And for me, sideline note, I was, my college degree, I was a piano performance and piano education major.
Amazing.
So yeah, I have a keyboard sits right here. I play it every day. I have performed all over the world in different things, even trained with the performer for the Moscow competition to be his accompanist. And I taught music accompanying classes at the university while I was doing ROTC. So music is kind of like my background. My doctorate is actually in music accompaniment. So I kind of kept that going, but I had a low draft number. Suddenly I'm looking at the Army. So when my tour was over after Vietnam in '78 as an infantryman, they offered me flight school, and I thought, oh, that'll be fun. Why not? So I became a helicopter pilot, and I flew for another 20 years. And then the Army said, well, you're too high in rank and you're having too much fun, so here's your desk, and enjoy the rest of your career, especially here in the Pentagon. So I look back on all of that, how I started with this idea of 5 years old, starting to take piano lessons. I end up as a ranking officer in the Army, a highly ranked officer in the government. I came out as an SES, Senior Executive Service, at a 3-star Lieutenant General ranking when I left the government. If you'd have told me back then as Cadet Sumner that I was going to do that and have accomplished all this, I'd have said, yeah, I'll have whatever you're drinking. Because all I saw was a kind of a geek in a picture. But I've been blessed. I've been given opportunities, and as I tell, especially young people, take the opportunities. If it works, great. If it doesn't, learn from it, because we only learn from our mistakes and from our errors. If you are only successful, you really don't learn anything. You just kind of plod along. So for me, back in those days, that would be it. That would be it, Mike. It's just have an idea of what you want to be, but don't channel yourself into saying that's the only thing that you
do. Great.
Dr. Sumner, nothing short of brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. And it seems like Alison and I say this almost every episode. There are patterns and themes to the leaders that we speak to. And you have reinforced a dozen of those today. And our viewing and listening audience is made up largely of business owners, particularly small to medium business owners. And the guidance that you've shared, it's reinforcing a lot of the things that we talk about on every episode. And you brought some new light to the show as well today. So, Dr. Sumner, thank you so much for being on Mike and Allison After Hours today. We've truly enjoyed having you on the show today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I really appreciate it. If I could do what's in like 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
We have an opportunity to acquire a new training center in Harpersferry, West Virginia. It's currently owned by Katie's mentor, who after 50 years of doing dog training, they're retiring. They would like us to have the property. Right now, we're in a facility that I have no outdoor training space. I'm in an industrial park area. I can only train Monday through Friday during the daytime. This is 10 acres of property, all the training facilities, all the houses, a transportation vehicle. It's on solar power, so there's no electric bill, well water, no property tax. If I can get that property, I need to raise $1 million. And what that'll do is that'll allow me to buy it outright, hire 2 more trainers, hire an Army veteran who wants to be the maintenance groundskeeper. So I bring on 3 new jobs. I can go from 5 dogs training a year to 15 to 20 dogs, and I can place 8 to 10 dogs a year if I can get it. It's ready to go. I just need somebody out there or a group of somebody to help us achieve that goal with those dollars. So the $1 million campaign to acquire the new training center. Again, if they have any questions, they can contact me through.
Have you started a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter for that?
We have not. We're in the silent campaign, so I'm using vehicles like this since we've got the 1,000 for 1 going. But if we could help get that out, we're going to kick that off this fall with a big campaign to raise the money. And if you could help us get it out, and if anybody has any questions, they can contact me at gsumner@vetsforward.org. And I'll be happy to share anything that you want to know about us. We're as transparent as you can get. Our IRS forms are on our website. We're also 2 years top transparency seal of approval from GuideStars. So if you want to know who we are, just ask. But yeah, we could use that support to get that training center. Because imagine, instead of placing 3 dogs a year, we're placing 10 dogs a year, and the impact that'll have on our veterans, their families, and their community. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great
sir.
day. Thank you.
Thank you so much again for being on the show. To our viewing and listening audience, if this cause resonates with you, please contact Dr. Sumner. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Hi.
I say it at the end of every show, people helping people, powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a classic example. So I'm curious, let's hear your thoughts on the things he said around leadership, because I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, there were 2 nuggets, and one you started to tease with his daughter's belief being stalled, right? And so it so often reminds me of, we sit here hoping and wishing to want to do something or to feel differently or to have conviction. And for me, my experience has always been, I act my way into having that conviction. I act my way into feeling that. And so that could be business, that could be health, that could be quite literally anything. Start along on the path, give it some time to take hold and keep acting your way forward. And then if it takes hold, you'll know it. And if it doesn't, after a little bit of time, to change course. But so often, I think as humans, we're so impatient and we cut off the tie. We don't give it time because we have this, urgent need for something to feel different now, right? And to believe now. And it can be frustrating, of course, but I loved that reminder of do the thing, keep doing the thing long enough until the thing becomes who you are and what you really believe in. So that was the first piece. And the second was letting people experience the direction and figure it out on their own first, which when I'm in that position and my boss tells me to figure it out, I'm like, I've got some words for you, and there's 2 of them only, right? And because I want you to just tell me what to do, right? But he's right in that, okay, you should show them a couple times, because just freeballing it, no, there's no efficiency there, right? But at some point, you do have to figure out how to do it. And you may figure it out for yourself in a different way that's presented to you that works better for you. And I know for me, when I'm putting proposals together, there's a lot of math involved. There's a lot of backdoor involved. There's a lot of things that I thought I didn't have to use anymore in my little brain, right? And when I'm able to figure it out on my own, it's one, empowering, and two, now I can then teach it to somebody else, which only cements my ability to do it. And so I really do, although I don't appreciate the direction when it's given to me in the moment to figure it out, it makes me slow down, and then it gives me cause for my future and a better ability to then help others too.
Yeah, that's a very interesting observation for a whole bunch of reasons. Earlier on in my life, if I think back to my college days, I was always a doer, meaning the best way that I learned to do stuff was to do it.
Yep.
I wasn't very good at reading books or watching instructional videos, as you and I were talking pre-show today.
Yeah, still not good at that.
Yeah, it wasn't my scene. I've always been a good learner by doing.
Yeah.
With that, there are things that you have to give some guidance on. But again, I talk all the time. I'm a self-proclaimed LinkedIn nerd, and I help people all the time with that platform. And I sat down with a gentleman yesterday and was talking to him about it. He's like, I just don't use it. And I said, well, I'll take 15 minutes to show you what I do, and that should help you. Now, beyond that, it's up to them to be engaged and ask questions. Teach a man to fish and he'll fish for a lifetime. That idea, and that's something that I think is at the core of leadership. And how could he? So he retired from the Army after being in it for 20 plus years, and he gets involved with this nonprofit because it speaks to his brothers, for lack of a better description.
Yep.
Speaks to the men that he served with, and how that impacted. And I mentioned my uncle who served in Vietnam, and he's told me terrible stories about what he did while serving our country.
Yeah.
And military is an interesting place, but it's a great place to learn leadership, right? So what else did you take away?
Yes. I just think that respect for your peers, right? And I love that he asks his volunteers what they think, right? People that are not paid, who their skin in the game is pure want, right? They're literally volunteering their time, and he takes the time and effort to go hang out with them and say, what do you think about that? And I just love that when you shoulder with people and equalize the playing field, so to speak, you give people the opportunity to stretch, right, and fill in shoes that they maybe didn't think they could or they didn't deserve to. You get invaluable experience just learning another side of the coin, right? I know that, because I don't choose my coworkers, right? They're hired. We're all very, very different. And I typically think I know everything and I'm the best, just saying. And really that's because I'm insecure, but that's a whole nother thing going on in my life at the moment. But when I take the time to sit down with my coworkers who didn't come from sales, or they came from a totally different arena and they're a little older and they just have this polish about them and how they interact with people, I learned so much, right? Because I'm sales all day long. I've come, and like you, I've figured that out by doing it. Nobody taught me how to sell. I taught myself how to sell with my own business, right? And I've been refined over the years, and I'm still being refined very much so.
Polished to a bright shine.
That's right, because I still have some moments where I have two words that I want to say, and sometimes they sneak out, right? But not always. And so when I take the time to sit with my peers who come from very different places, I'm always rewarded. And so I just really love that about him. Like, ask the person who you think might not have anything to say, and just take the time, slow it down, right? Give people space.
So let's take that last comment, which I absolutely love, and apply it to the sales environment a little bit. Because again, you and I, whenever we talk with a prospective client, the decision is almost never made by just one person.
Yep.
Almost never.
Yep.
Very
I wish.
unlikely. And even if they tell you they're the one that makes the decision, and even if they're the ones that actually signed the contract, they discussed it with at least someone else.
Yes.
And it's usually 5 or 6 other someone else's.
Yep.
And it's that classic story of you need to treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO.
Yes.
Because for all you know, the janitor is the CEO's nephew.
Yeah.
And the janitor might just say, hey, that person didn't treat me like a person. They treated me like a thing.
Yep.
And the CEO is going to say, well, 2 can play at that game.
Yep.
So I shall treat that person like a thing.
Yep.
And you will get one of our favorite words on this show, perspective. You will get input from those other people that you talk to.
Yeah.
So I love how it seems everybody that we interview goes back to things that you and I see every day, because I'm sure you can give me at least a dozen examples in the HR world of things that are just completely upside down that have been impacted by leadership, good
Sure.
and bad, right? Just in the last week.
Yeah. 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 Well, and just, you never know who you're meeting and who, I mean, this is just general humanness, right? Like, you don't know the guy in the line at Starbucks, who they are, or the cashier and why they are a cashier at the grocery store, and so just treating people with respect and giving everyone space. I just feel better about myself when I do that. And, that we in the sales world, we call them influencers, right? We don't know who is also, so we have our stakeholders and our decision makers, and then we've got influencers. And in a lot of ways, on the way to the yes, they all have equal parts, right? So we really have to mind our manners and be respectful and weigh in on everybody and let them weigh in. So yeah, I appreciate that reminder.
Yeah, and along with respect, one of the things that you've pointed out on frequent episodes is that you and I have a passion for what we do. We have a conviction around what we do. And I think I told you this story off air a few days ago, but if I didn't, I had a meeting with the assistant of a woman that owns a wellness clinic. And we talked about what they have in place, and we talked about pricing. And a week after that meeting, I get an email back from the assistant that says, hey, Mike, thank you so much for your time. I discussed with Rachel what you proposed, and it's cost prohibitive for us. And I wrote back and said, I appreciate you following up with me. And I know this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but you can't afford not to do this. And I said, look, you don't have to buy from Advantage Industries. You don't have to buy from us. But what you do have to do is you do have to hire a cybersecurity expert to give your business a full HIPAA audit. And I said, and once you paid for that, now you're going to have to retain an IT company to execute all the things that they found wrong. And I said, look, I only talked to you for 5 minutes and I can name 20 things that you're missing. So you can now find 5 or 6 partners to piece that all together. Or you can work with me because we have a solution. And I tell you right now that my solution is going to save you time and money over the long run. No, I agree. It's more money than you want to spend right now, but you're not spending nearly enough to protect your business. And if you don't take these steps and you go to file a claim against your cybersecurity insurance, that claim's going to be denied.
Yeah.
Because you didn't take reasonable and appropriate action to prevent these things from happening.
Right.
And I got an email back from the client an hour or so later. It says, "Hi, we'd like to schedule a follow-up meeting with you."
How about it?
And I know you have stories like that where someone has pushed you off and said, "Meh," and you're like, "Look, you can't afford not to do this. You have to do this, Mr. or Mrs. Customer."
Yeah, I mean, I also trust that when the pain is great enough, right? So you and I have talked about the cost of turnover, which for me is huge because of HR, right? We're very much, we have our hands in that space. And, you know, to the listening audience, have you ever calculated what the cost of turnover is in your business for one person, right? It's not just what you pay them in salary.
It's insane.
And benefits and what it took to onboard, your time, potential bad morale from however long that person was involved. If it wasn't a good cultural fit, the ramifications that bled out, and then what it costs then to recruit another person, and then onboard that person. And so I try and frame it a little bit like that, depending on the situation, right? But HR is delicate, of course. It's
intimate.
Yes, you can there's a gnat. That's why I keep swinging at the screen, and it's driving me crazy. I'm trying to pretend it's not here, and I'm failing.
I'll ship you some DEET. We'll get rid of it.
Thank you. And I'm like, what's in here? Anyway. All right. But you know, it's. I know if they can't afford not to do it, that ultimately that'll happen, and I just hope it's not too late, right? So I try and treat it a little bit more delicately. I didn't used to, but I do now.
Yeah, and I obviously I don't say that to everybody right out of the gate.
Sure. Yeah.
Because nobody would talk to me then.
Right.
But,
well, and I've had people, I don't want to say they strung me along. It's more like I wouldn't leave them alone because I just know we could really help them. And they just can't make the decision they need to make internally for it to work. And I don't know if it's a personality thing, right? They don't want to hurt people's feelings. I see that more in older organizations that are family, or somebody's been there since inception, and they've just, the business has outgrown them, right? And the business leader is too close and doesn't know how to sever that tie. I'm certainly not going to tell you have to. You're telling me you need to, but I can't do that for you, right? So until you come to a place where you know your organization deserves someone better, not saying anything's wrong with that person, but people outgrow things all the time, right? And so and times are changing. So if that person cannot grow into a new role and you can't reposition them within the organization, then, you know, somebody's got to pull the plug eventually. But I know that can be hard, right? So
yeah, so I love what you just brought up there. It's the good to great. It's get everybody on the same bus, but make sure they're in the right seat.
Correct.
Because you don't want the bus driver sitting in the back of the bus. That's not terribly productive.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
So you've got to have, and you know, I'm going through an evolution with my company that I shared with you a little bit, and this will be the third time that my role has evolved. And strategically, our company is positioning itself to really be successful because of these changes that we have identified and said, you know what? If we just let Mike concentrate on this, it's going to yield some real benefit for the company. And that means change. And that means that my role is changing. That means that we're literally going to be hiring probably 2 more people to adapt to some of that change. But you're never done.
Right.
And that's one of the things, you know, when you and I talk to business owners, which we do all the time, almost daily, is unless you decide to retire or sell the business, you're never done. You're constantly sharpening that knife. You're making that blade precise and fine. Now, part of the reason that so many companies need us is because their blade is, you know, blunt, and it's a butter knife at best, and wouldn't cut through warm butter on a summer afternoon. But that's the value that your organization brings and my organization brings from an HR perspective and a technology perspective. And those business leaders and those business owners, they're in the day. Yeah. And it's hard for them to look out a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. So, Alison, your parting thoughts for today? Dr. Colonel Gordon Sumner.
I know.
Phenomenal.
I just think when I get to the age of retirement, God help me if I feel the need to get pulled back into work. Like I don't know. I'm not there yet, right? So who knows? I like to be busy. I like to work hard, but no, I appreciated his passion, and again, just shouldering with his peers and his volunteers, and the reminder that everybody has insight and value, right? Regardless of where they are on the ladder. So I thought that was a great episode today.
Yes. Thank you for your energy and engagement today.
Got it, sir.
Haas. And for our listening and viewing audience, thank you so much for participating in Mike and Alison After Hours. And tune in for our next episode. We promise you are going to love our upcoming load of guests. Thank you so much. People
have a great day.
Powerful stuff. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Mike and Alison After Hours. Tune in next time for another great business owner sharing valuable industry ideas. Want to be a guest on our show? Contact us at answers@getadvantage.com.